Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome back to our home addition remodel thing. Back into the kitchen. We're going to start working through some more trim and we're going to jump into it today, and I'm going to do some things that can't be installed yet, but at least they're off my list of things to make. They're easy things to make and I can procrastinate a little bit because the main thing I want to get done this time is to fully wrap this cased opening on both sides, and I have to decide what I'm going to do here in this zone there because I have crown coming in, I have a casing coming in, I have the jamb coming in. I don't know what I want to do there yet, so we're going to procrastinate and make some other parts. So looking from where I was just standing on the other side of the room, we have these two openings. This will go into the dining room and that will go into the entryway, and I want to get these top pieces made with a bandboard and a head casing that go above these openings, and I can't install those until this cabinet's here. This cabinet can't go here until the countertop is here, but at least those are fairly easy, or they should be fairly easy to make and get off the list. So here are the two openings here. We have that bandboard, which is a continuous detail throughout the rest of the project. You can see here, we got this call out to a line. So if you remember back to the sunroom, that bandboard is at the same elevation here as it is in the sunroom and throughout the rest of the whole entire project. So it's a unifying theme. So we have a couple of band boards to make there. Those are pretty easy. They're just flat. And then we have a head casing which goes above the door. Now if we turn to our molding profiles, you can see our standard head casing call out. The difference that we're doing on these openings is because we have a band board coming in up top, we're omitting this, whatever you want to call this, cove mold detail thing, and the band board basically takes up that space. So our head casing is only this section. So these head casings are shorter, but we still have this, whatever you want to call it, that bead molding thing that goes beneath it. And then that detail is also the same here above the sink in front of these windows, or above these windows. We have the band board, which we made last time we did trim. We'll have that head casing with that bullet molding thing. These are solid casings, which we made last time, or flat casings. And then these casings are 4-inch casings, double beaded, which we'll make later when we figure out what we're going to do, over there. So I can make this one as well. I can make it fully ready to go up. I just have to know how wide the whole thing needs to be so I can make it the right width, because that bullet molding goes past the head casing board a little bit. On these ones, because they're going straight into something else, they have square ends, and that molding or bead or whatever doesn't go past the end of the board. And we have a few other head casings which I'll have to make later. So I'll make more of that bead molding, bullet molding, whatever you guys call it, than we're going to need for these 3 pieces. So first I'm going to take care of the easy one. That's going to be the band board. So that's going to come out of a 10-inch wide piece. And it's supposed to be 1 inch thick. So what I have been doing is gluing 2 inches onto a 5/4 by 8 because I can't get a 5/4 by 10. But in all the other cases, the bottom edge is fully exposed. In this case, we only see a little bit of that bottom edge. That's because the head casing is going to come right up into here, and we're just going to see a little 1/4 inch strip along the front. So I can use a 1x for this and just fur it out from the wall a little bit, and no one will know that it's a thinner piece of wood compared to the thicker stuff that we have normally been using. And I have this extra 1x10 that I don't have any other use for because I'm done with that stuff, so at least I can use up some of my scraps. Well, I celebrated a little too early because this board is literally 1 inch too short to make both of them. So we'll get one full piece and then we'll take one of them to the shop and get the board stretcher out. Now for the head casings, I have these leftover 1x6s. These will make those head casings. We'll just have to rip a 1/2 inch off to get them down to 5. The head casing above the windows is 10 foot. So I'll be able to get that out of these. These are 16 footers. So we'll get one head casing for the windows and one head casing for the doorway out of one of them. And then we'll chop another head casing out of another one. Now for the beads, a bead mold that goes along with those head casings. I have these rips from when we made baseboards. They're the right width. Then I'll just plane them down to 3/8 and we'll put that ball nose thing on the front. Okay, the next thing on the procrastination journey is dealing with the baseboard situation down here. So there are a couple of kind of odd things going on here. We have the baseboard outlet, just like we had in the sunroom. So we're going to have a cutout for that. When Donovan was here and we cut all of those pockets out, I didn't have a long enough baseboard piece to put here. So I had him cut a couple of samples, or smaller ones. This one that would just scab into here. And I had another smaller one that we cut as well that I had, so I can take this with me into the shop as I'm cutting the switch plate cover things to test fit them. That way I don't have to go and like check them against the long giant piece of baseboard. So I have this one as an extra if I ever need it. But this is that. So I have a few other pieces of baseboard, little scraps that will domino together and kind of scab that in. So that's that. The more, I guess kind of weird thing is going to be the air return. And I got a matching plate like I have in the sunroom. The 3 over there is just a bigger one. And it's going to be just kind of figuring out what kind of surround we want to have built up to mount this in. Because this is going to be sort of a one-piece thing where this plate is recessed basically into the baseboard or into a housing. So I wanted to just figure out what size I want to go around here. And it looks like about 1 1/8 inch. That's going to get it off the floor to the right height to get it kind of centered in the area here. And then I'm going to put it all the way tight to the upright here. That's just how it's sized. I didn't really plan for this to be the style of return grate on here. This is just where the HVAC guys kind of put it. And I'm just going to make it work with how it's going to have to work, I guess. And then the other thing on here is the baseboard itself gets that cap molding. So we'll have to figure out what we want to do as far as treatment around this air duct. I'm thinking that I'm going to carry it around, so we'll have a cap mold somewhere up in here. Maybe that'll look okay. I don't really know. I think I'm going to build this whole thing out as a single unit and stick it up here, and we can kind of like lay the cap molds in place and see what looks best, either having a cap mold or having no cap mold. So that's what I'm going to do next. Head down to the shop and start making all the pieces to make this baseboard assembly thing a reality. So I left this side on here for now just to kind of see what it could look like. And I think that probably would be better, but I will just end up removing this and bring it all the way in. I don't think I could really make it work like this. I could paint this black, but I think it would still look kind of weird. And I can't move this vent because our post for our beam is sitting right here. The exterior wall, there's the seam right there. Exterior wall used to be right here. So this is kind of one of those, this is going to be what it's going to be kind of things. But as far as wrapping this mold around here, I think it's going to work out pretty nicely. They kind of have this come up and around, and it's going to work out pretty cool. So all of that for just doing what I was planning on doing originally, I guess. And let's go ahead and make this work and make it all one piece. So chop the left side off, and then we'll attach these sections of baseboard together to get the rest of the whole piece. And this will be a single unit that we can put in after painting. All right, so this is how this is gonna kind of look. And we'll have that cap mold that runs all the way around. So this will go off to the paint pile, and the painter will make this look like one piece that was not all piecemeal together for a bunch of little offcuts and stuff. So next I want to turn my attention to the front windows. In a few days we have the countertops folks coming out to measure, so I need to remove the extension jambs on those windows. The stone is going to wrap from the countertop up the wall a little bit and then transition into a stone sill. So those extension jambs will be replaced with stone. So I want to get those off before they show up. And while I'm over here, I also have the trim pieces for the screens, just like we had in the sunroom. I already pulled these ones off and they're already in the paint shop, but I still have to do the middle. And this is something that I should have done when I was doing the sunroom. Because in the sunroom, we replaced this bottom piece with a piece that matches the top. Let me pull that down. So on the top, we have this piece, so the screen butts into here, and then the bottom, the screen is supposed to sit down into the channel, which makes perfect sense on a window that has operability. This center window is a fixed window, so I still don't really know why they just don't use this on the bottom as well, because with this in place, when you go to paint and caulk it, it's so high that you start getting into like this bead detail up on here. So just like I did on the sunroom windows, we'll go down to the shop and we'll make a piece like this that will replace this bottom piece in the actual window screen trim assembly. I think it's a much nicer look, and it actually leaves this round over detail, this bead detail thing, so you can actually see it up against the molding. All right, so I'm done procrastinating. I'm ready to start working on these case openings. But first, let me show you the original plans. So the way that it was drawn, you can see the crown is supposed to come across the top of the opening and show like 1 inch of the backer board behind it, so it kind of matches the 1 inch show on the rest of the cabinetry and everywhere else in the room. But one thing we noticed in framing is that we can't actually drop this head height down this low to make this detail work. So currently the way this is framed, I have 6'9" from floor to the drywall. If we did that detail, the head height would drop down too low, and it'd be low, really low coming in here. So here's a little mock-up of what we've kind of come up with, is having the top jamb of the opening come forward, be wider than the side jambs to create a stopping point for the beads. So the beads can come up into it, or just one bead, because, oh look, another detail. We don't want the bead to come up into the crown, so we're gonna do a stopped bead and have it stop before the crown, and that's gonna be more the finished look. So something kind of like this will be the final look. There's lots of different ways you can make this work. I think the most common way to be to put a block up here. So just like a plinth block, but just up here for the crown to die into. But I don't really like that idea either. And this is more or less what we're gonna do. The only difference is, one detail you can see here is the bead gets really tight into the piece that it's going into. So on all of the casings where the bead goes into something, I'm going to make a little bit of a step on the casing that will push the bead away from the thing it's up against, give us a gap to actually get a nice caulk joint and not be caulking into the actual bead. This one's gonna be kind of weird because we have all the different steps and elevations. And again, what most people probably do is just put some filler strips and just make up those fillers as different pieces. Even for this thing, they probably just put a little filler on the side. But because I'm pretentious, I'm going to make that all integral, so it's all there already, and we can just install it as one piece instead of piecemealing a bunch of fillers. And then, you know, making the painter make it look good. Now I don't have an elevation view of the other side of that wall, but it's going to be just like this one, a standard cased opening where we have the plinth blocks, the casings, and then the full head casings, so we'll be making that for the opposite side of that wall. And then we also have the 2 case openings on this wall, which I already made the head casings for. The only difference here, again, is since these beads go into something else flat, we'll put a little bit of a filler along the side of those casings just to pad them away from those things to make that connection a little bit nicer. And while we're here at the plans, I'm going to touch on the pantry just for a second. So the pantry also has that fully cased opening. Difference here is that the casing for this door is going to be 1 inch thick, and that's because of all the other trim details that run into it. So this is going to be a standard casing on either side, standard plinth block, standard head casing, but they're just 1/4 inch thicker. And it's the same thing here on the window. We have trim details which have some thickness going into it. So the window casings and the head casing are just thicker, and I'll make these as well with this whole batch of trim. Okay, so I think I have a plan. I'm going to take care of the easy thing first. We're going to go make all the plinth blocks that go at the bottom of all the cased doorways. I have so many of these rips laying around that I think these are going to be perfect for the plinth block stock. I'll just chop them down to length and glue them all together to make a bunch of blocks, or stock for blocks, I guess. And now get rid of this stuff. That'd be nice. And then while those are sitting in the clamps, we'll go and pull stock for the rest of the parts. Okay, I'm going to take care of the jambs first since they're the easiest. They just need to be ripped down to width. I'm going to leave them at their current thickness. They're at 7/8 right now. All of my rough openings are all wide enough that I don't have to really worry about that extra 1/8 of an inch or the extra thickness making a difference in my final opening. So that'll make these go a little bit faster. Okay, I'm going to start stepping through the beaded casings. I'm going to start with the easiest ones because that's how I roll these days. Easy things first. That's going to be all the beads that actually go right to the edge. It's like a standard one where we're not trying to butt this up into something else. So all of these casings go up into basically drywall. So this would be the pantry casings, the window and door, and the window casings for the front windows, and the casings that go on the great room side of the steps area. Okay, so there are all of the basic ones, the standard 4-inch with the bead going all the way to the edge. Next, I'm going to do the next easiest, which are the ones that go into something flat. So in that case, we'll have one side that's the same where the bead goes all the way to the edge, but on the other side, the bit's going to be raised up, so we create a little bit of a flat area before the bead starts. So basically, we have this kind of little like indentation thing on this side too. And that's going to give a little bit of a shadow line between the bead and the thing that it goes into. Because if you just put it like that, that would look kind of weird, and then you end up caulking the seam, and your bead disappears. So we'll basically have it set up off the other piece like that, just to create a little shadow line and give a place to actually caulk that seam. So there's our done pile so far, and I want to get some of the stuff just out of here, so it's out of the way before I get into the weird casing that's all notched around everything that goes into the great room and the head casings. So this all has to get sanded, and then one other thing I'll do is I will clean up one end of the casings, and I will pre-attach my plinth block so that it all goes out to paint as one unit. So the way that these are set up is that on a standard casing, the plinth block is 1/8 of an inch wider, so that it ends up a 1/16 of an inch proud on either side. And what I did on the ones that have, where is that one? They have that flat area. Where'd they all go? Like this one down here. What I did on this one is made the casing 4 1/16 wide, so that the plinth block is flush to one side, and it still has a 1/16 of an inch step on the other side. So my casings are 2 different widths at this point, and that step casing is going to be a 1/3 width compared to everything else. So I'm going to get all this stuff out of here and make some more room to keep going. Okay, so I'm on to the casings for the great room now. So these are gonna have the stopped bead in them. So I'm gonna rip, they're gonna be different widths because I have fillers that go on the left side where it goes into the paneling and goes around the bandboard and everything. So they're gonna be two separate widths and that bit's gonna be at two separate heights. The right side that goes into the appliance garage is the easier side. That's gonna have the same profile we did last time where we have a little bit of a shadow line for the bead before the bead starts. So that's going to be that side. I'll do that one first. And then the other one will be a lot wider and have a much bigger flat area next to that bead. So I can notch it into all the little, basically I can notch it into the paneling and make that step happen. And the other thing is both of these are stopped beads and they're going to stop like 3/4 of an inch down from the bottom of the crown. So at this point I'm just going to roughly get them stopped somewhere and I can trim them and make it more precise when I cut them down to final length. Okay, so there are the stopped beads. That's going to give a nice stopping point for the crown to kind of go into. And I already went ahead, I got the top jamb, I already just cut the little notches here. So the casings will be received by the top jamb, something like that. This little ear here will give a stopping point for this bead. And then this crown will be kind of between the two of them. This is still long, and I'm going to leave all these pieces separate, so I'm not going to cut these to length and put the blocks onto these. I want to be able to do this all in place because I'm going to join all three of these pieces together on each side, especially up here. So this will actually be connected with some dominoes so they can't shift around over time. And I'll maintain a nice flush connection for the part that you'll see. So you only see a little bit. You'll see just a little bit right here. And when the crown comes in, you'll see everything from here over. So that's going to take care of this whole opening, the one opening I've been dreading. We can put this all in the paint pile and get those off to the paint shop. And that leaves us with the last thing on the list, the head casings. So we made this thing earlier. We just prepped those flat pieces. I need to make some of this stuff next. Okay, there is our top molding thing. These are the little bead molding things we made before. I had a couple of these left over from prior runs, so I only need to make one piece for this. So the head casings is another piece of trim that just is a lot easier to build out completely as a unit here in the shop. And then it goes out to paint, gets fully painted and finished, and it's all nice and pretty. And all you have to do for install is just slap it on the wall and this part's done. So I'm going to build out all three of these as a full head casing unit and send them off to paint. The only, I don't know, challenging part, difficult part is that you need to know the exact final length of the head casing, which is going to be the outside dimension of the two casings when they go up the wall. That's the downside. You have to kind of get it right now because you can't really adjust these head casings later on during the install like you could if you were building them in place all as a single thing on the wall during the install and then finishing and painting them in place. Everything has been painted and is ready to go. I'm going to start doing some install. Basically just what I can do right now. The case opening to the great room and this baseboard thing. I could technically do the pantry case openings too right now, but I'm going to wait until I'm ready to do all the trim in the pantry just to kind of just focus on that at once. So one big giant cased opening and one baseboard, and that should do it for this one. So there's this section. I ran out of shoe mold, but other than that, this section here is done. We talked about the shoe mold when we did the great room, but for the baseboard this tall with the cap on it, it looks kind of weird without something else going on down here. So the shoe mold is there more for visual than for gap filling, at least in this case. Someone scabbed this piece together in a little bit of a curve. I didn't have enough material there to scribe it in, so the shoe mold is actually effective here as a gap cover, which is kind of cool. I do like this detail quite a bit. I think this corner, this actually worked out really nicely with this grate in here. I think this looks really great. And yeah, I think it worked out pretty nicely. Looks good. So that's going to do it for this round of trim. I'm really happy that this opening here is cased, and that's kind of behind me. We got a lot of the other stuff for the future already made, so when it comes time that we actually install the trim, I don't have to make it because it's already made. I can just go right into install, which is going to be quite nice. So that is going to do it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the home renovation, the kitchen build out, whatever, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.